understand the mood of the industry and the mood of the people inside the hall. So I have a small a poll to be taken. Okay, I think you need to pick up your phone. Is India's logistic infrastructure good and large enough to support India's rapidly growing pharma manufacturing? You want to vote? Okay, there are 3 answers, and you have next 10 seconds. Just average. Good enough, but a lot more desired. Nobody says that extremely good. Come on, everybody. We don't know what's the sample size of this. Still on? Okay, 65% says good enough, but a lot more desired. Have you closed the poll? Okay, I think that actually gives us some indication as to whatever the sample size, it's good enough, but a lot more desired, which is like 66% of the people who polled says, and it's just average, that's 34%. The question that we have today is that, do we have that preparedness? Do we have the infrastructure to support global manufacturing of pharmaceutical products in India? What we have on stage is an interesting mix representative of the entire pharma logistic value chain. Vickram actually represents pharmaceutical company, Sun Pharma. We're supposed to have Rajesh Shetty representing Roche, but I think there is some Roche representatives here in the hall, but he has some emergency travel, so he has excused himself. Then we have the other logistic stakeholders. We have an airport. Manoj this year joins us not just about representing Mumbai International Airport. Manoj represents seven airports. Eight airports. And I think this will keep increasing next time when we meet. Probably you'll have 10 airports. We also see that Manoj has changed his attire and the look of how
Bharat.
He presents his.
It's a Bharat look.
It's a Bharat look, yeah. I think it is important that we have such a large airport custodian with us. It makes a lot of sense for a lot of us to discuss the pharmaceutical logistic value chain when in this context. Then we have a freight forwarder to my left. Venkat represents DHL Global Forwarding, an important global logistic company that takes care of a significant amount of temperature-controlled pharmaceutical movement within India and outside. Mark Sutch represents an airline, and he represents international cargo for IndiGo, the largest airline in India. Mark, I think if I'm not wrong, probably about 2,000 flights in a day. Yeah. Then we have a packaging solution company representative, TPC, Arnold represents. So that actually gives us a good mix of resources who can provide a good idea about how good is India's logistic infrastructure for India's global manufacturing sector. Let me start with Vickram. The last 3 years have been exceptionally extraordinary for pharma supply chains across the world as shocks and disruptions of various types, intensities, and the frequency of such shocks and disruptions are rapidly becoming much more frequent. It tests actually the resiliency of global pharma supply chain. What is your biggest learning from the last 3 years, and how are you implementing those learnings into building a resilient supply chain within Sun Pharma, according to you?
Sure. Thanks, Reji, and thanks for the organizing committee for having us here. I think it's very interesting, and to have a very nice mix on the panel as well. You know, of the shippies and the shippers and the solution providers. So very happy to be here. So last 3 years, has been unprecedented in a lot of ways. I mean, it's not that supply chain, managers like me have not seen, disruption in supply chain. We've had recessions, we've had, different, events in the scheme of things where, we've had disruptions in supply chain. What was unprecedented in the last 3 years when COVID hit us was both demand and supply getting disrupted at the same point of time. I mean, supply was getting disrupted because India, China went into, localized lockdowns, etc. And demand was getting impacted because the whole world was in the lockdown, I mean, and we knew India is the pharmacy to the world. We are supplying probably 30%, 40% of the generic goods to the world. We are the biggest exporters to US and to the rest of the world. So in that sense, it was unprecedented, So it was both demand and supply coming to a grinding halt. And we had these challenges with respect to how we can ensure our supply chains go on without having much of those disruptions. So what we have learned is, how supply chains have become fragile. I mean, we always knew pre-corona that supply chains were global, they were interdependent, and they were, fragile. But what brought to fore during the COVID was the weak links, so to speak, in the value chain, what you talked about, Reji. I mean, how supply chains have become weak and how they are, I mean, in the sense, what are the weak links with respect to the global, connects we have with all the stakeholders, both upstream with my vendors and downstream with my customers. So that was unprecedented. So I have, 3 takeaways which I feel we've learned extensively. And like you said, the shocks will continue, It can be as simple as a boat getting stuck in the Suez Canal, or it could be a volcanic eruption in one part of the world where the air transit gets stuck because you can't fly through that airspace, or it could be a geopolitical situation in one other part of the world, I mean, the kind of disruptions we have now is unprecedented because that's the kind of visibility also we have in the value chain. So I have three takeaways for the audience over here, what I feel is key for making supply chains resilient. One is building visibility. And that is where a lot of, tools and technology, Industry 4.0 was talked about in the keynote session in the morning today. And as we talk about Industry 4.0, I think Industry 5.0 is going to take over very, very quickly. A lot of robotics coming into, logistics management, into operations, into warehouse management, etc. So visibility is going to be key in my mind. Number 2 is collaboration. How we can collaborate with our service providers, with our vendors, with our logistics service provider, and not just conscious, cooperation, but conscious collaboration. Make them your business partners, make them your stakeholders in your business, how you can extend that arm, how you can share that information with your vendors or with your logistics service providers with respect to what is important. So that becomes very important. And third is, scenario planning, how we can have various scenarios where we look at plan A, because when you have a plan A, there is always going to be elements that are going to lead to that failure, So how we can have a plan B, plan C, and look at integrated business planning, not just look at silos in which we work, that I connect with my logistics service provider and that's it. Work with my logistics service providers and the freight forwarders and probably the airports and the customs, how we can make sure that if something can go wrong, it can't. Because let's be honest, the pharma industry today that we see is going to transform. We are getting into more personalized medicines. We are getting into highly complex injectables and biologics and biosimilars, which need a different degree of, attention to how we are moving the goods, how we are manufacturing, how we are moving the goods till it reaches the patients. So we all need to be a lot more conscious with respect to how we are moving these drugs, because any temperature excursion or risk of, spurious drugs entering your supply chain can mean, life or death for the patients who's having it. So it becomes, the onus is on the industry, is on the pharma industry, on the logistics service providers, on all the key stakeholders in the value chain to be more responsible going forward. So that's my take, Reji. Yeah.
Thanks, Vickram. I'll come back to you as to whether is there any kind of disease in the Indian logistic industry, and I really want you to pinpoint some of them and what is the solution that we can arrive at. Manoj, airport plays an important role. Quite recently, I had doing an interview with someone and said, I think a large portion of the audience is actually representing the air freight industry or air freight mode of transport. All that you require is a crisis in a Panama Canal or a Suez Canal. Think about like you have 3% of the volume of global trade moving on air freight. Even a fraction of a freight moving from sea freight to air freight can actually clog the entire air freight traffic. Airports do play a significant role, and one line that we keep saying that is Mumbai airport is the most constrained airport, and a lot of people actually wonder at how come that you manage to kind of handle that much of important cargo commodities through this airport. And Mumbai is also a pharma capital of India. A lot of pharmaceutical products move out of India, move out of Mumbai. Tell us about particularly Bombay and Ahmedabad. What is your plan to support India's pharmaceutical manufacturing sector as an airport custodian, 8 airports right now?
The most important for an airport is how do you communicate with the supply chain player? The most important is you have to keep engaging. We need to know the requirement of capacity from the airline, from the key logistic players who are driving most of the 80 to 90% of the volumes, and understanding more from the pharma industry also how the growth aspect is, because economic growth of a particular region impacts the logistic movement either by sea or by air. So for an airport, we have to create a demand, create an infrastructure supply in such a manner that we have every requirement of the customers are at the airport itself. We need to see that we have a very skilled manpower to handle the product, the most important, because if you see the Pharma Excellence Center which has come up at Mumbai is the need for 15 years of the demand volumes. So it has not been planned only for a short-term period, it is for a long-term period. And we were very fortunate to have these infra much in place before the pre-COVID. And when the COVID impacted, this was like a blessing for us, that because we cater to all the requirement of pharma industry, and we're the first airport in India as Adani airports to cater all the demands. Wherever the customers came out with a multiple requirement, be it they manufacture and ship out, be it the pharma or the vaccine distributions. So all the requirement at the airport was in place. So it requires a lot of engagement with the stakeholders. So we have already catered that requirement. But the most important is we have to keep engaging other requirement as well, because things are changing, evolving around. So for an airport, we have to really see that the requirement of manufacturers are also in the need, like so for example, Sun Pharma is there. They would come out in next 2 months a very different requirement which we are not aware of, right? So if they keep on engaging with the supply chain player, with the logistic players like DHL out here, we'll keep on understanding the need, and we need to be flexible in our approach. Rather the plan A to create an infra at the airport, we are there. We're one of the finest world-class facility at the airport around the world. If you see, you compare any part of the world, Indian airports are well geared up. They have been, seeing the requirement and being the gateway for the world. We have to be at par of what is required. But still, we, as you mentioned in your initial survey, that 63% and 36% is not up to the mark. This is a very positive sign, I would say, not a negative sign. If we are complacent about, we are doing the best. Every supplier, right from the manufacturing to the service provider, the logistic player, the freight forwarders, airline, and of course the airport and the service provider, we cannot be complacent in this particular industry. We have to keep on working, bringing in innovations, bring the best, because ultimately we are concerned with the patient, the life of the people, one of the key element. Other aspects are also there. But because we had catered this requirement, we could cater to the world, the vaccine distribution also. So as Adani Airports, we're very focused on this particular niche product. And when you say the infra, I think we will be able to, by 2024, Adani Airports are going to cater around 450,000 tons of cargo capacity for pharma temperature controlled products, Navi Mumbai, Ahmedabad Airport, and the existing CSM and Mumbai airports. So we are very geared up, but also plan B will always be there. And digital transformation is something which we're focusing more on. Of course, at the airport we have Turant, the mobile app is there. Our strong business partner is there, CAC, who is working very closely with us. But on the airport community portal also as AMAX, we are trying to cover and work with the airport to airport. So we are making a digital corridor of real-time transparency of the data movement of cargo, which moves to the Europe and to US, and we will be able to give it to the customer the clear visibility. So one is about digital transformations, but infra will keep on evolving. We have to have a space for the manufacturing. When the moment they manufacture the product, they can ship out, and we are, as an airport, need to cater the demand and store the goods. The storage segment, the cold chain segment, and by next 7 to 8 years, the demand for the cold chain product and, of course, the storage segment is going to go multifolds. The investments for future for pharma industry or the logistics players is all about these two sectors. So you have to create, an airport also have to really niche and cover these two requirements into the airport requirement as well. So I think this is the clear ecosystem where we have to hold hand of each other, work on infra, work on process, work on people, and of course we have to see the green technologies I keep on telling, because this is the thing which is going to be the future. If we are not up to the mark, we're not going to sustain in our future business requirements. So I think very, very important that we all have to work on creating a capacity from the airline perspective, and of course whether we are really ethical in our business, where we are very transparent in data sharing, that the cargo has been handled in a safe and secure manner, right from the manufacturing till the customers consumes. I think everyone has a role to play. Everyone has a KPI to really perform well, and they'll be very transparent to share the data. And the moment this happens, I think the world is going to see a best of the pharma product handled across the globe.
Yeah, I think the COVID pandemic and the COVID vaccines actually exposed how critical the cold chain is going to be. Somewhere there is a report which says minus 196 degree cryogenics will require cold temperature as low as minus 196. I think in the case of mRNA vaccine, it was minus 74. So what kind of cold chain infrastructure is required to kind of support that level of temperature control and logistics? Yeah.
So one more point I wanted to emphasize was about the packaging solutions. So if you see over the last 5 to 8 years, the packaging solutions have changed the whole logistics supply chain. There's a different modes of packaging which has come up, and I'm sure that in next 2 years, few more innovations will surprise everyone. So the biosimilars and the OTC, the most important is the medicine which is in the largest population across. India and China is going to have the maximum pie of it. Earlier, the supply chain used to be, the manufacturing, the raw product used to be in China. India is to stabilize and then export it to Europe and US. The geographical shift is happening. India is catering all the demands within the country, and it's going to really make major changes. So as India is and South America are the two regions that's going to grow in a bigger way. So things will change, packaging solutions to manufacturing, and the consumer product and the manufacturing will keep on changing. As an airport, we have to see that whether we are being able to reach to the requirement, because it will be like a tsunami. And for us, infrastructure will keep on. And we have to see that the supply should be ahead of the demand. That's why I keep on telling that. But it's a real fact that this industry is going to grow multifolds. And surely the sea mode of transportation is there. But air for the value, high value pharma product, vaccines, and long distance product, air is going to be a dominant market, and it's going to survive.
Yeah, in fact, India was known for its API manufacturing. We lost, in the course of the time, we lost it to China, and I think COVID has put the focus back. And I think yesterday I saw an interesting graphics which says like the number of companies in the Indian pharmaceutical companies and the API. And there's one particular company, they don't produce many in terms of the APIs, but then they are the largest exporter of API from India. Mark, like I said, the largest low-cost carrier in India. As of now, you don't have a pharma product. What's your vision for Indian pharmaceutical industry as far as a reliable logistics service provider?
Great, thanks Reji, and thanks again for the invite. And it's a pleasure to represent, I guess, the Indian airline sector, although I know Ramesh will be here later as well. I feel a bit of a fraud to be at a pharma conference, as you say, especially when, Etihad are hosting it and have such a good product, along with another few airlines of that sort of quality. But it's very much something that we aspire to. As you say, we're India's biggest airline. We operate, I think, 2,000 more flights a day, actually, to over 80 destinations within India and then 30 outside of India. By default, because of our frequency and because of where we operate, particularly within domestically, we do actually carry probably 600 tons of cargo that is pharma per month, and that's growing. But that's really not on the back of, as you said, having any particular product. It's probably more because of where we go to pretty inaccessible places. And in the absence of the road network, which is getting much better in India, but there's certain parts that can't be reached that well, we do that. So we want to go in that direction, but I think a lot of what Vickram and Manoj have said is very important to us. First of all, we need the infrastructure, and we see that. We have that as not a problem, actually, Manoj, and you're doing a great job with your organization, making sure we build that. I first came to India by mistake at the age of 12 when I was on a British Airways flight that diverted to Calcutta because of an engine failure. And I can tell you, having seen India then, and then having worked in India with Cathay for 5 years, the development has been phenomenal. And it's actually at a point now where, yeah, there's work to be done, but infrastructure, I think, for anyone manufacturing here or anyone operating here, you're actually very comfortable with it. But then there are a few other things that you need, I think, as an airline to be comfortable in offering a pharma product. And what I've said to my team here, and many of them come from backgrounds of global forwarders, is that at IndiGo, we're not going to offer a product that isn't reliable and can't deliver on what is a very, very important sector of the market. We're only 17 years old. Effectively, within our organization, which I think is a brilliant sort of Indian success story, the cargo division has been very much a support function. Okay, that's changed a little bit in the fact that we now have full freighter aircraft, albeit only a couple, and we're sort of beginning to learn how to use them, I guess. And we are working with some wide-body operators, and we have a daily departure from both Delhi and Bombay to Istanbul, for example. But do we have a pharma product? Do we have the SOPs? Do we have the know-how? No, we don't. And I'll tell you where I think we'll get that. We'll get that when and if we change our fleet substantially and become if we do, become a wide-body operator, because I think it's with that kind of aircraft that really you have the ability to handle pharma, which mainly comes in skid format. Obviously, the stuff that we're taking, the product we're taking domestically and on our narrow-body aircraft is loose cargo, but predominantly in this industry, it's built up skids, and that's very important. Secondly, we need to have the right people in place, but that sort of comes after making that decision. We do have really good people on the team, and people like Biju and Giri, who's here, former on the team, come from backgrounds of companies that were on the freight forwarding side that understand it, so very keen to push that forward. But I'm trying to hold everyone back and say, we're going to do this when we can get it right. So look, massive aspiration, and I think the other thing that's important is that both IndiGo and certainly Air India, particularly with their fleet as it is today, means that there can be Indian players in this. At the moment, it's dominated by very good quality overseas carriers who rightfully play in this market because we need them to be here to look after the industry and to make sure it develops its export capability. But going forward, with the right factors in place, Reji, and they're not there yet, but I hope they will be, within a short amount of time. We certainly have an aspiration to build on that capability and become a serious pharma player outside of what we're doing today, which is, to use a pharma pun, slightly less active at the moment.
Okay, I think we will wait for a reliable pharma product from IndiGo sometime soon.
Yeah.
Arnold, you are into packaging solution, and we did make a mention about the the importance of packaging in the pharma logistics supply chain. How critical is packaging, and what is TPC's role to improve the quality of India's pharma logistic value chain?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Thank you very much, Reji, for this opportunity. It's a pleasure to represent the cold chain manufacturing side of it. We've been working hard during the COVID times, and it's not only us as a company, but the industry, the packaging industry as a whole, has been working hard during the COVID times. There are new developments that we've already done, and each company represents the packaging industry, the cold chain packaging industry, has been working hard to ensure they provide a quality product to the pharmaceutical industry. Now, if I talk about my company, CPC Packaging, we are an Australia-based company. We are the only company with having 3 manufacturing sites in India, at Ahmedabad, Mumbai, and Hyderabad. That's important for us because we wanted to ensure that we give a quality product to the industry. We've collaborated and we've partnered with logistic companies, airlines, and the pharmaceutical companies to provide a product which would give them an optimum utilization of temperature control for a longest duration. Because there are 3 factors that play a very important role, is temperature, performance time, and the quality. So, as you already know, the Indian industry, the pharmaceutical industry, is growing 20% year on year. And definitely 60 to 70% of the cargo movement is still through sea. And we've got the entire air cargo, the air freighters, everybody here. So I think we can go ahead and optimize the air cargo part of it, being more efficient in that. It's definitely working with the pharmaceutical companies. There are problems wherein they want cost is the main problem. I think you'll understand, you'll agree that with me, Vickram. Cost is one, and the second is performance. In temperature control, there's a passive and there's an active solutions. There are, as you already know. I represent the passive side of it. Now, the biggest problem that restricts somebody to use a passive solution is that performance, or is the time of the performance. So what we've done is we've gone ahead and now launched a pallet and a boxes wherein they have a 200 hours of performance, which is approximately 10 days, and which can ensure you temperature stability for a longer duration time at a cost-effective price. So that's how we've gone ahead and ensured we provide a good product to the market. Talking about the quality side of it, we provide trainings, once for a project implementation, and also for to ensure that we train the person who's going to get in touch with the cargo, who's going to do the packaging and who's going to send it across so that the packaging is 100% successful. So that's our commitment towards quality.
Thanks, Venkat. Moving pharmaceuticals in India is a big challenge because of logistic handling are too fragmented still. How do global companies like yours, DHL Global Forwarding, bring in global standards and scale to support Indian pharma manufacturing?
Good morning, everyone. Thanks, Reji, and congratulations on the 6th edition. It's a much required summit. We all know the importance of pharmaceuticals. The world of pharmaceuticals is largely governed by good manufacturing, storage, distribution practices. All this together makes the GXP standard. To achieve this level of compliance, one must adhere to an harmonious quality standard, process standard in the entire pharmaceutical supply chain. We at DHL adhere to the good distribution practices. We take it as a norm in the entire life sciences network, which is 150 stations, and each of these is well managed All of this 150 stations managed by 4,000 trained specialists. We call them life science specialists. They are certified. And what we do is we train them and equip them as GXP certified. The same thing is there in India. We have all our stations are GXP audited and GSP certified. Not just DHL Global Forwarding, our DHL group, we have DHL Supply Chain, in which again there are various stations across India, and all of that is certified. In fact, what we do is we've gone beyond the potential that we've seen in India. So we've also created a global humanitarian competency center. And we've located this in the Middle East, Dubai, and we design solutions. We cater to a lot of UN requirements, because there's a lot of pharma required for various countries. So all of this put together, we create solutions within the DHL network. Reji.
Thanks, Venkat. Vickram, when you look at your supply chain providers, logistics service providers, what's your biggest pain point? What is that disease that you have to deal with daily basis? Apart from the cost part, I think that's one thing. But other than that, what is that biggest pain point that you deal with?
So sure, I mean, very interesting, and since the service providers are also in the room on the platform, I mean, apart from cost, if we keep the cost, is the two more other important levers that we look at is service and availability, So both factors. I mean, even if you pay, if you don't get the service, or there are shipments which are getting delayed. We talked about the infrastructure. We talked about the wide-body aircrafts flying through, but during COVID, you have to realize none of that was there. I mean, the infrastructure was there, of course, but there were no planes flying across, I could not go out and rent a DHL wide-body freighter and move my 10 pallets in it, So we need the availability of aircrafts, and I know Mark also mentioned about, a lot of international carriers over here. Air India is also moving a lot of cargo for us, but still there is a dearth of, having that option. So I was talking in my opening remarks also scenario planning, what if my cargo, which is very critical, time sensitive, temperature sensitive, needs to move, and it can't move on a passenger air belly, because we have to realize there's still about 65–70% of pharma goods move on passenger air bellies, So how we can accommodate all that cargo without it getting offloaded at the last
that
moment.
scenario has changed. The COVID that's gone.
COVID
now
has gone.
There is extra capacity.
Still we struggle to get, there are events like G20, Delhi airport was shut, everything was congested over there. There's a live example, just 1 week back. So events like these keep happening, and that is where, what Manoj was talking about, how do we build the infrastructure beyond Delhi and beyond Bombay, the key airports. So if I have to move something, say from Indore, how do I move it from Indore? I have to either go to Delhi or Bombay, right? What is in the vicinity? Can we develop a Bhopal, for example? Because again, we know Indore is a big pharma hub. If you look at Northeast, where a lot of manufacturing facilities are coming up and have come up because of various tax incentives for the industry, etc., how do we move my goods from Northeast to say, export locations? Within India, we have a lot of infrastructure over there in terms of road, in terms of rail. We've started looking at all that. But when we talk about air, that's where the kind of, the next growth spurt in my mind comes through. In terms of, availability of that infrastructure. A lot of it is being built, but a lot of it is being concentrated in 3 or 4 of these major ports, be it Delhi, be it Bangalore, Hyderabad, or Bombay, When you talk about the 5th, 6th, or beyond 10, you struggle a little bit,
Yeah, I think this is perfectly aligned to what the Ministry of Civil Aviation said, that we will not create one India hub, but we will create multiple hubs in India. I think that's where I think a lot of concentration is on the metro, and I think that's where you have it's like infrastructure is under stress. Manoj, you are in a perfect position, eight airports, and I see a huge potential for Navi Mumbai International Airport, very similar to a situation like at Dubai, United Arab Emirates, where you have within the range of 100 kilometers, you have 4 international airports, multiple international carriers operating, JNPT connected to a Delhi-Mumbai industrial freight corridor, dedicated freight corridor, a huge potential for sea air. Maybe I don't know what is the vision that you have. I think it is a perfect solution that you could offer to pharmaceutical manufacturers like Sun Pharma.
From the capacity perspective, if you see, the airports are geared up. But as you rightly mentioned, whenever there is a plan B is never, it's always a contingency. Plan B is always a contingency. Then what happens? Now, on a lighter side, I would say, because of the cost factor, during the COVID, yes, the air cargo industry and especially logistic players across supply chains, they did well. But at a very high price. The customer paid a very high price. And then there was a diversion of cargo from air to sea. Then the next move was from sea to air, whether it is moving, it's only not more than 10 to 15%. It has diverted, it has not come back. Now the question arises, demand and supply, the capacity is there, whether the demand, whether are we really, it all evolves around with the freight and the cost factor, because you can't compare air to sea. There's a huge 9x to 10x the freight difference are there. You just can't compare it. But when we see that the air cargo products, organic growth on certain niche products will keep on evolving and keep on evolving for air cargo products. That growth, which we say we are sure about to cater, for that everyone, we all here, most of the air cargo players out here, have to create a team thought process, not a silo thought process, what he really mentioned about it. That's where we are going to challenge our another logistics supply chain from air to sea, whether we are really in a better way to do. Because at the seaside, as also there are so many new solutions are coming up of giving a different product solutions to the customers. So we are in a competition environment. Whichever does the best have to. From the airport, yes, Ahmedabad airport is coming up in a big way, which will create a huge demand because there is currently there has been a big challenges. But Navi Mumbai, as you rightly mentioned, Navi Mumbai and Mumbai together is going to cater almost around 3.5 million tons of cargo capacity. So this is going to be there for another 20 years of requirements. So what we see the organic growth, 2030, the Ministry of Civilization has a dream of 10 million tons of cargo to be handled across India. I think the journey towards there, hubs, multiple hubs, and the regulatory framework, which gives a better synergy and better approvals to do all supply chain businesses across at the airport level. That's what we need of requirements is there from all the supply chain players here. So from the airport perspective, we are here to create an infra. Not only we cater to the Ahmedabad airport, Mumbai airport and Navi Mumbai, but other airports of Adani, where Mangalore airport is coming up in a big way. We have made a world-class facility for international and domestic integrated cargo terminal. Trivandrum also we started off with domestic cargo facility. Jaipur we started with the domestic cargo and IndiGo is playing a major role there. So the requirement of international cargo capacity will keep on evolving. We are making in next 12 months to 18 months, we'll see all Adani airports, another ICT international cargo terminal is coming up. So as his requirement of Indore, you'll have the closest airport you can give solutions. So we're here to work together, and this is where I think we have to keep on evolving and creating supply. And looking into the cargo capacity, what Mark mentioned about, it's a dream. For a cargo players, we need to have some disruptions here because we had Jet Airways, we lost Jet Airways. They had a complete, all options of aircraft was there, wide body, narrow body, tail to tail, and they had point to point. They were the real transshipment players across India catering to the world. We're still to go. In India, we're still lagging behind because Air India is coping up, they are creating capacity, they're moving ahead. For the customers, when they don't see the choice of capacity available of all types of products, I think IndiGo could be one of the major disruptions going forward, because if they start within the domestic market, a wide body aircraft, they'll create a capacity of 20 tons. And that's what I wish would be, and freighter. This will create a pharma vertical, a major requirement. I'm sure the freights are going to be more challenging, and customers are going to gain for it.
Okay. I like to keep this as interactive as possible. So if there are any questions from the audience, please do raise your hand and ask questions. And if there are any specific comments that you would like to make in between, please do go ahead and make your comments. Vickram, one quick follow-up question as to how much of your volume is actually by air on an annual basis, approximately?
So we would be about, what, 30% of our volumes must be moving by air?
That's quite a substantial, I think that's...
It was more.
It was more.
It reverted.
Yeah.
I remember one of your colleagues mentioned in one of the panel was, the ratio was 70-30, now it is 30-70. It has changed.
Okay.
It was always air cargo.
So that is clearly that air freight is losing out. Mark, how do we bring back the premium quality and the service, the value add for customers on the air freight side?
Great. When you gave me that question originally, I made a note here. You said value add, premium, and cheap. That's a classic from Reji. I want premium service, I want it cheap. You can't use them in the same sentence. But I have given it some thought. I mean, look, I think the key, if you are trying to add that premium at a price that's, at the right price point for everyone, really, I think you've got to have a key range of solutions to begin with, right? And I mean, my example there would be, recently we managed to move a significant tonnage of pharma, even though we don't have a product, to Istanbul on a wide-body flight. And the reason we were able to do that was twofold. One, I wasn't willing to move it into Europe because you lose my network, or lost my network, so it was my network into Istanbul. But secondly, was the packaging, and the packaging was absolutely fine. So essentially, it could move, without needing to go into specialist warehouses. I mean, obviously, it was a particular pharma product that wasn't, that sensitive. And then the other extreme to that, and I saw it on the video from Etihad, was envirotainers being offloaded, and that being obviously an expensive solution, but one that is very, very effective if the value, I guess, of the product is high enough. But it's not only in pharma that you see that, Reji. I mean, I remember back in the Cathay days when huge manufacturing of phones was coming out of China, and you're looking at I used to look at the price these phones were being sold in the US or wherever they were, and then consider the price that I was being squeezed on, for my cargo. Everyone's got to make a sort of margin in this business, right? And it's extremely capital intensive in the airline business. But one of the ways I think you can control that is to try and control your costs through doing as much yourself as possible. And again, an example I used from a previous life was, at Cathay, where, when we moved to a new airport, we built our own cargo hub for the first time that was operated by the airline. And the key, I was involved in those meetings, and the key reason for that, even though it was a very huge investment, we looked very, very long term at controlling our costs. We were able to offset some of it by outsourcing as well, but cost is going to be key. People, I think, sometimes look at India and think it's got to be cost effective. It is in many industries, but actually aviation in India is not the cheapest place to operate. There's been huge investment, and therefore airports have got to get that investment back. So landing charges, etc., are not as low as one would have thought. And secondly, you have other taxes in India, particularly on things like turbine fuel, aircraft fuel, that's different to the rest of the world, and creates a lot of cost. That said, look, I'm all for making sure that we work together, all three parts of this sort of industry, whether it be obviously the shipper, the forwarder, the airport, and the airline, to try and find as cheap a solution. But I think we have to be wary of putting premium and cheap too close together. It's the same if I look at IndiGo as an airline, which is 99% low cost airline. I can take you to Dubai at a very reasonable cost, but you're not going to get the champagne you get on Etihad, or to Abu Dhabi, the champagne you get on Etihad, and you're not going to get the big seat. There's got to be a range of different solutions out there, and we can certainly fit into one, and we'll get into the other ones when we have the right infrastructure and fleet with us. But let's be careful about premium and cheap. Reggie, a
Yeah.
warning.
I get your point. In fact, I was actually talking to a head of cargo with Southwest Airline, and that actually, IndiGo actually reminds me of that they operate about 4,000 plus flight.
Yeah.
I looked at their numbers. They don't carry as much of cargo as you carry operating 2,000 plus flights. So I think there is an opportunity for you right now. You don't have a pharma product, but you still you said about 800 tons.
650 tons a month.
650 tons of pharma cargo per month. That's a significant value. And I think the kind of network that you have connecting the remotest places in India, I think there's a value. And perhaps this is something that you could create, and there is an opportunity for IndiGo Cargo for pharmaceutical products movement within the country.
100%.
Arnold, while there is an effort to create globally acceptable standards in packaging, and you're part of a global company, how do you bring some of those global standards into a country like India, where there is an attempt to be okay with any kind of standards? How do you make sure that highest level of standards are offered to pharmaceutical companies in the packaging side?
Reggie, the level of standards globally into training and into giving the training to the manpower is tremendously high, the investment that they do in trainings. So what we've done is we've created an ecosystem within India, within our organization, and with the companies that we partner, the pharmaceutical companies and the logistic companies. We provide trainings to our employees first. We have all the 3 sites are independent, so there's a quality team, accounts team, operations, dispatch for all the 3 sites. So we've trained our team internally from trainers from Germany and from Australia. What we've done is we've gone ahead and trained our logistic companies and the freight forwarders and the pharmaceutical packaging divisions, and created an ecosystem wherein we do not have to be present all the time, because with different in passive packaging, if you have different solutions or different packaging dimensions, there's a different pack out every time. So the pharmaceutical companies, the packaging team understands how well they can do the packaging by themselves. We train them, we train the quality team, we train the freight forwarders, how the packaging needs to be done. During COVID, we worked with 3 vaccine manufacturers during the lockdown, and we were the only only pharmaceutical packaging, cold chain packaging company, wherein throughout the COVID, we were not shut even for one single day. We worked 24/7 in 3 shifts, and we worked weekends as well. We delivered more than 5 lakh boxes to the industry at different sizes. We did a -22, we did a 2 to 8, we did a 15-25, and we did some dryer shippers as well. So from these 3 sites, we were able to go ahead and deliver solutions to the industry. I think the time that we had in ourselves and to go ahead and train people and to inculcate the knowledge and how the ecosystem was built before COVID helped us in COVID and helped our pharmaceutical companies as well, because they were well trained to handle it. So we didn't have to spend extra time traveling there and training them. So that's one very positive point, is going ahead and training the staff and also sharing the knowledge. We have competitors in the industry, but I think competition is healthy and we understand from each other's strengths and knowledge. So I think it's a very give and take relationship. And also we worked on feedbacks from some of my pharmaceutical clients are here, and they have given us a feedback. So taking a regular feedback from the client, what their requirement is, what they want us to aim, providing very soon within the next quarter, we will be providing biodegradable solutions in the industry. In India, we've already launched that in Europe and in Australia. So biodegradable solutions is for the future. So we are going to be giving that in for the boxes and for the pallet shippers as well. So it's a packaging will be biodegradable for 96 hours, that's 4 days. So that will be first in the industry. Apart from that, I already mentioned that we are providing solutions for 200 hours, which can actually move so there are 2 points as it comes: premium packaging and at a low cost. So as Mark just mentioned, so we are trying to balance that. and give that to the industry, so that most of the sea cargo moves to air, because the price of the packaging is high. As active solutions, the prices are 10 times of what a passive solution is. So we're trying to move more of the get the sea cargo over to the air, and also help. We customize a lot of solutions, so that's been a game changer for us for the last 6 months. Customizing solutions, we have approximately 480 validated solutions. We've provided customized solutions to the freight forwarders and to the pharmaceutical industry, thus helping them save on their volumetric weight, and that's been a big advantage passed on to the freight forwarders and to the pharmaceutical industry.
Venkat, patient-centric healthcare, individualized patient care, these are emerging trends. How do you as a reliable logistics service provider to multinational pharmaceutical companies, how do you sit down with them and design logistics service for them in this emerging advanced therapies, cell and gene therapy? These require a very special set of logistics service. How complex is that designing process? You just need to orchestrate that supply chain solution.
Yeah. So you said patient-centric healthcare. It's a very dynamic, growing term. So what we do is we work very closely, intimately with the customers in development of mutually beneficial services. In fact, we have just recently published a white paper which describes the collaboration in detail. It's titled as Delivering Next Level Healthcare. Okay, we can show that.
We have the QR code. I think I'll show you by the end of the session,
Yeah,
that you can download the paper. Yeah.
Yeah. So it's a white paper available, as an example, what we do is DHL medical system. We take use of the collaboration of ourselves, DHL Global Forwarding, DHL Express, and then we use the express service to ship clinical trials to the laboratories, to the doctors' offices, to patient homes. So, in fact, we have our supply chain organization, DHL Supply Chain Organization, also facilitates warehousing for such products. So, what we do is not just outbound export. So, for us, we are a global presence. We are there in almost every part of the world. We can design solutions two-way. We also have a collaboration as DHL Group. So we also have Blue Dart. So during pandemic, we had this World Bank Charter project. So we had to bring in for the government of India, for the various state governments, we had to bring around 824 tons within a short span of less than a month. So mobilizing aircrafts, in this short span itself is a big task. So we have our own in-house charter division, plus we leveraged our group companies, Blue Dart. We have our own DHL Aviation. So all of this aircrafts positioned, which also again, as I said in earlier, that about the GXP certification. So we completely map this inbound, outbound, both together. So that way, I think we have ideally positioned life science healthcare as a focus vertical, and that is where we are today. And there are more investments coming in fact, even in packaging, active solutions. We have tied up with Vacutech. So we have an investment in Hyderabad, where Vacutech does the pre-cooling for in our premises. So there is a lot that way as a solution, and that's the way we have taken the approach.
Thanks. I'll come around if there are questions from the audience, please be ready. We can raise the questions. Maybe Manoj, you did make a mention about airport to airport, digital trade lanes, corridors, and it is important that you have a cargo community system that you work around, and that seems to be a kind of trend that you see in different airports around the world. Is there a scenario where you are able to connect airport to airport, your cargo community system with the cargo community system of another airline, another airport, maybe in Miami, some of the important trade lanes? Is that digital corridor for pharmaceutical shipment? It becomes easy for a Vickram from Sun Pharma. Okay, we trust these trade lanes, and then we have similar set of SOPs, standards that is being followed across different trade lanes. Is that something that you're looking at?
It's a good question. I think this is the way forward. Synergy we need to really work on. Among the Adani airports, we have a cargo community system is well in place for Mumbai. For Ahmedabad also we started off a year back, and for Lucknow airport. But this is within the airport community systems where all stakeholders interact, communicate, and the entire transaction happens on a real-time basis. We did some POCs with Amsterdam airports, and it was a successful digital corridor for pharma shipment. And frankly, I would say this is the way forward, but I think it's not purely an airport-to-airport requirement. It is the freight forwarders, the customer. We did it with Siemens, a complete KPI for a complete shipment moving from Europe to India. And there are 6 channel players who are part of the KPI process, which was monitored on a dashboard, and our system integrated with Kale Logistics, connecting and giving a real-time update. And we could see a graph of where are the possible challenges which was there, and those corrective measures. I think looking into this aspect of the KPIs, we all have to not only see that we communicate airport to airport, that's not the solution. The solution should be that the airport, along with the community system supply chain players who are part of the process of the cargo being handled, right? Be a freight forwarder, the airline, and the shipper, moves the cargo along with the digital corridors, communicate to the other airports, and ultimately when it reaches the customer, the product. And what we do is that we do our part, and then we're not bothered about it. The cargo moves out, so my KPI is taken care of. I am not aware of what the products in real sanity, whether it has reached to the customers. I think we all have to be very clear in our roles. Every place, we all are here. I think we all have to really see that the community system, we were the best of the community system which we are in place today. It's all adaptability to the change. Be it freight forwarders, be the shipper, be the airport, airline, and the packaging solutions. So what we do is, we move the shipments. We also need to see whether it has reached the customers, and it's a reverse information coming that my whole cycle of 360 degrees is taken care of, and this is what I've given as solutions to them. So I think coming to that point.
Could airport be the anchor for something?
Exactly, I'm coming to that point. We have started as a first stage, which we have been doing it. Now we have to evolve around, like for example, Dallas Airport is there in US. They are all focusing on the pharma driven. They have done everything what best thing can be done, and they've been traveling across Milton and Jack, as you know, John is already, since last 6 years, they're focusing on India because they know this is the potential region which caters to the world's demand, right? And they've created that ecosystem. So now what we need to do is we need to have some base either in Dubai or in Europe and then go to US. So adaptability of that particular airport community system with those stakeholders together, adaptability has to happen. Then I would say if I'm not giving solution to our customers, I don't want to do only my job. I want to do the complete ecosystem jobs. So airport surely is going to be the key player in driving this. And I'm sure we will be able to, once it's Ahmedabad airport comes up, and Mumbai, we are already doing it, we'll try to work together maybe with 2 or 3 potential players who are ready to accept this kind of challenges. I think it's a very innovative challenge, I would say. So let's take this challenge and move towards, we are geared up for it. And I think going forward, our whole digital corridor is a digital journey for the next 4 years is focusing only on this aspect.
Okay, I'm stepping out. Maybe Vickram and
I just
Venkat
wanted
could
to-
actually comment on
Yeah.
the shipper-forwarder relationship and how we can take this project forward.
So in fact, I wanted to carry forward the point Manoj was making and go beyond airport to airport. You know, it has to be factory to patient, you know. And to be honest, you know, being a little more futuristic on this platform right here, I'm talking about, you know, Reji, you talked about airport being pivotals, but we don't know with drones coming in, you know, we might not need airports. You know, and with complex, drugs which are time sensitive, temperature sensitive, and very small in volume, you know, if I want to move, say, within India or within Africa, you know, where the last mile connectivity is an issue, you know. So that to me is a major concern with respect to how I can make sure that the efficacy and the effectiveness of my drugs is not compromised throughout the value chain. Airport to airport is a solution which I think Manoj also mentioned is fairly there, you know. I mean, if you look globally, the SOPs are pretty standardized. You know, what we do in a Frankfurt airport and what we do in a Bombay airport will not be drastically different. But what happens when it reaches Bombay airport, when it has to go from, say, a Bombay to a Bhiwandi or a Nasik, you know? That to me is going to be the game changer as to how we can look at that last mile connectivity from the factory to airport. And once it lands to the destination airport, how do we make sure it moves safely across from the airport to the warehouse, to the forward DCs, and to the patient's doorstep? That to me is going to be the game changer in terms of how we are going to manage end to end.
Yeah. So in fact, you were speaking about shipper forwarder. So there it is basically trust, transparency, compliance. This augments a healthy business relationship that eventually culminates in partners in excellence. Designing reliable solutions will create seamless journey. In fact, we at DHL, we make use of predictive analytic to perform lane risk assessment to eliminate excursions in the supply chain. What we do is also our life science specialists, they work in a compliant manner so that that really helps in growing this partnership and giving confidence to the customers. We know in the back of the mind that ultimately there is a patient at the end of every shipment delivered, which is why we proudly use the hashtag We Care. And yes, we know what is in stake. We life improved or saved. In fact, based on this trust, we've handled in the recent through one of the top 3 Indian pharmaceutical giant, something which was enormous value, you know. While we speak about temperature controlled, in this case, the value of the shipment itself was 2,200 crore, okay? And not just one, there were 4 such shipments, and all through, it has to be picked up. So we have safety security measures as well because of the high value, apart from the temperature and quality. So we also have innovated and reinvented the wheel. Like what we've done is, while shippers have data loggers, we have thermonet sensors. So what these do is they also measure the external ambience through which the entire package is traversing. So for the case of this high cost pharmaceutical business, we had safety security measures because of the high value. We have the temperature being measured externally as well, and then complete deliverables being taken care. And this is how we do a lot of gateway solutions. So like, you know, you also touched upon a lot of congestions. So the gateway solutions help us in making alternate solutions within India and from an origin standpoint, and also into multiple gateway points in US. And all of this because overseas we also have our own life science warehouses within the terminals. So we have complete visibility with the help of the thermonet sensors, which takes care of the external ambience through which the freight is traveling. So all of this put together really becomes that, and that is where I said about the trust, transparency, and working in a compliant manner.
Thanks, Venkat. And since we have DFW and Frankfurt Airport representatives here, I'd like to get a comment, John.
Well, first of all, thank you very much for having us. I think that Manoj really hit on something important, and I represent an airport, obviously, so I'm going to speak from an airport perspective, but I think the ability to work with like-minded airports in India to establish that kind of end-to-end trust in the cold chain, I think is a tremendous opportunity, and as Manoj mentioned, we've been coming here for several years now because we do see this as a vitally important market for our airport and for our region in the United States where we're from. So I would look forward. And I think this is we talk about community a lot at DFW, and when Milton, and I'll give my colleague here, Milton, the credit for having this vision, this cargo vision for the airport, but one of the first things we did is go about curating a community, because we realized that without all of the people, all of the airlines, the forwarders, the handlers, everybody who touches the product along that value chain, we would be nothing. So we quickly realized that it was, it took that village to make this work for us. So that's what we really think a lot about at DFW Airport.
Roland?
Good morning. I don't want to preempt the next session where I'm going to be talking about exactly this subject, but for us as an airport, we are connecting the supply chain long haul to long haul, or long haul to road in our case mainly. So from that respect, we are not a service provider. We are the airport authorities, so we make sure that all the partners that we have on site, that they are compliant with the rules and regulations, and you'll hear about that in the next session. So after the coffee break, sit tight then here.
Thanks, Roland. We're waiting for any questions from the audience.
Joachim, also Frankfurt Airport. I really like, Manoj, what you said about digital corridors being only one step. I think on some conference we already had the vision of creating the network of trusted cargo community systems as the next step. But then also, as you said, we need the whole supply chain involved. And I don't want to step too much on Roland's points for the next session, which I invite you to join. But Manoj, what do you think about initiatives like One Record being the platform or the standard where we can connect all airports, not just the mature ones that are already very strong in pharmaceutical transports?
Absolutely. I think that's the future as well. We talk about, Industry 4.0, we are talking about blockchain, we're talking about, EDI flowing through and having the traceability also with respect to, making sure that the information that flows through is true and honest, So that's the future in my mind, it's going to happen because we are connecting not just so many airports, we are trying to connect the doctors and the patients as well, So I'm always looking at factory to patients, and all the infrastructure in between is going to fall in place because the end goal is how we can connect the right doctors to the right patients and make sure that the right medications are going to that patients and we can monitor it right at the real-time basis, So that's the end goal, so that we can make sure that the 7 billion plus population globally can have a healthier and a safer lifestyle. That's the overarching vision with which I think a lot of pharma companies operate to reach the global population, and the service providers, the airports, and the logistics service providers, the freight forwarders in between have to make sure that they are making sure that the goods move safely, no spurious drugs enter the supply chain, the drug supply chain security is maintained, so that when the patient gets that medicine in whatever shape and form, through whether it's through e-pharmacies, whether it's through drones, or whether it's through some courier service, they are receiving the medicines which they can trace back to the factory and ensure through all the nodes they can know where it already touched point and it is safe for consumption. That's the goal, and that's the future in my mind, and it's going to happen very quickly in the next in my mind, in the next 5 years, we're going to see that with all the smart watches and the smart devices that we all wear, with all the traceability that we are building in our medicines, in the packaging solutions that we have. That's in my mind, the overarching, greater good, so to speak, that we are all looking for.
Okay, then I'll ask each one of you to make the closing remark, and that thing we have the time up now. Venkat?
So simple. Thanks for this. I think connecting people, improving life, excellent, simply delivered.
Vickram?
Sure. I mean, he talked about predictive. So beyond predictive, I want prescriptive and preventive, so that my goods reach the patients safely. So as a pharma industry representative over here, my goal is to make sure that the goods reach the right patient at the right time. So whatever it takes from the entire value chain, we all have to come together and ensure that we deliver.
Thanks. Manoj?
I think 3 important aspects. One is collaboration, second is innovation, and a mindset of just do it. I think these 3 important parameters, I think it implies to everyone. And if we really work together on these mindset, I think we can achieve any milestones.
Mark?
Yeah, I think everyone sort of said it. I think for me, as we go along our journey of building something in the pharma sphere that's more robust than we have at the moment, I think, I just ask everyone on the panel in terms of our industries that we partner together. And then I'd ask that, we be very mindful, as I said, Reji, that, quality has to come with built-in unfortunate costs, right? And the pressure to reduce costs across all of our business is very, very big, and that's why we need to work together to make sure that we don't sort of trip up in that area. And I'm not asking that we make record profits here, there, or everywhere. I'm just be very mindful about that quality, and we've got to deliver quality. It doesn't come for nothing.
That's right. Arnold?
So we are coming up with a Global Research and Development Center focused on innovation in Chicago in the US, which is launching on the 25th of October. So we'll be working very closely with John. We started with a pack of cigarettes, John, if you remember. Yeah, definitely we are going to go ahead and work towards that. And our responsibility is giving a risk-free packaging. So that's what we are moving towards, and we're focused on that.
Thanks, everyone. I think it is very interesting times for all of us who are in the business of either manufacturing pharmaceutical product or providing a logistics service. I think it's an interesting time for all of us. And I think we need that collaboration. As Mark said, nothing comes cheap. If you want a premium service, you got to pay for it. It's like you want a thing to be ordered online, but then you're not willing to pay for that premium price for that quick delivery. I think it is time that we be mindful about that. With that note, I'd like to end this conversation. A big round of applause to all my panel members on stage, and a great round of applause to all of you. Thank you so much.